One way that we can guarantee progress is by developing our physical capabilities off the mats. In this video, I'm going to be ranking training methods for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu based on their effectiveness to develop your physical capabilities. Because a lot of people do a lot of different training methods without having that intent to develop their physical capabilities. Jiu-Jitsu is the priority. However, the development of your physical capabilities off the mats immediately transfers to Jiu-Jitsu. So that gives you, as a grappler, a clear track record of progress, which is a fucking beautiful thing. The reason you should listen to me is because I'm a former British paratrooper and Special Forces support group operator. I've trained thousands of elite soldiers. Now I train grapplers in helping them delete injuries and build physical body armor to keep them on the mats. So I know one or two things about this type of thing. Please take these points on board and mold them into your own unique situations. First thing I want to talk about is strongman. Strongman training is the blend of heavy lifting, explosive training like powerlifting, and cardiovascular training as well. There isn't much requirement for high ranges of motion. So when you think about the physical capabilities that you're actually developing through strongman training, you're developing high-end cardiovascular fitness, you're developing strength, explosive strength, maybe power. So you develop, and you're not really developing range of motion. So are those physical capabilities in which you are developing going to develop your grappling? I am not convinced, because I don't think we need power in Jiu-Jitsu. We need a little bit of it, but we don't need much of it, right? And these are strong men, they're borderline power, right? So I'm going to put this C tier, right? And one of the main reasons I don't like it, I'll give you two reasons actually, is it's very taxing on your central nervous system. If our central nervous system is massively taxed on the mat, we struggle to learn, problem solve, and we struggle to retain information. Another reason I'm not a fan of it for Jiu-Jitsu is because, yeah, it's physically taxing as well. So nervous system and physically taxing, it's going to be very high fatigue. It's going to have a negative effect on your Jiu-Jitsu. The other reason I'm not a fan of it is it's not about it. There's not much end ranges. There's not much like development of your mobility, your end range mobility, right? So there's two or three cons for it. More running. So running is massive in the martial arts space. Everybody's like, right, to develop your cardio, go and run. And again, the question remains, what physical capability is running developing? Well, it depends what pace, it depends what distance. So typically most people run at a low pace, a slow pace for, half an hour, 45 minutes, 60 minutes. What are they developing? Well, they're developing their muscular endurance and they're developing their aerobic fitness, their aerobic capacity. You're already training them two things on the mats, so you're not filling any gaps, you're not touching any deficits. So running isn't that useful if you're doing the generic running that most people do. Now, the more speed you start to push into your running sessions, like let's say you're doing 5-minute max effort to mimic the mat, then you're going to start to go up on that tier list. However, most people don't. But one of the huge cons of running is that it absolutely smashes the joints, and you're already doing that on the mats. So you're getting double the destruction of the joints with running. So it's going to have a double negative impact on your jiu-jitsu. Now, in times where jiu-jitsu volume is quite low, let's say you're having a few weeks off, I think running could serve some value as a replacement, but running is not going to develop your physical capabilities in any meaningful way for jiu-jitsu, unfortunately. Sprinting is a different story, but I'm not talking about sprinting in this video. More mat time. So your coach probably tells you the solution for every problem is just by more mat time. How do I get more flexible for jiu-jitsu? More mat time. How do I improve my strength for jiu-jitsu? More mat time. How do I improve my cardio for jiu-jitsu? More mat time. If I was a marathon runner, how would I improve the strength to improve my marathon running time? Run more marathons. You see what the point is with this. More mat time is the gold standard. Everybody should aspire to have more mat time, but you have to improve your body's capacity to be able to absorb that increased mat time with less of the adverse effects. By simply saying more mat time is the solution, just creates more problems because people's bodies aren't ready for more mat time. So you need to think about something that increases their body's ability to do more mat time rather than just more mat time. Understand where their advice comes from, by the way. More mat time is essential for maximum skill development. However, if your body can't absorb that more mat time, you need to work on improving your capacity. Next thing, kettlebells. You have to ask ourselves, what physical capability does kettlebell training increase? So what is a kettlebell? A kettlebell is a piece of metal, that varies from 6 kilos to like 32 kilos, 40 kilos, 50 kilos, 60 kilos, 70. How many kettlebells have you seen that are 60 kilos plus? They're not very heavy. They're not very heavy at all. They use movements that train multiple ranges of motion, multiple joints, multiple types of movements. They don't really do anything. They do movements that... Kettlebell training trains a lot of different components of fitness, allegedly. It trains a little bit of strength, a little bit of mobility, a little bit of endurance, a little bit of coordination. But it also does it in a way where the exercises are training a little bit of that joint, a little bit of that muscle, a little bit of legs, a little bit of shoulders, a little bit of biceps, a little bit of hamstrings. So you're not only getting a proper mix of components of fitness, you're getting a proper mix of where these components of fitness are getting trained. And what that creates is a complete clusterfuck where there is just no precision in the development of your physical capabilities. It's very difficult to answer what you're developing when you do a kettlebell training session. However, you are developing cardiovascular. I think kettlebells are closer to cardio than anything else. But they don't even do that very well because there's too much weight. Like if you want to develop your cardio, you don't need to do weight, you just need to move your body really quickly, whether that's sprinting, whether that's on the assault bike, whether that's on the rowing machine, heart rate monitor on. Kettlebell slows down cardio training. It doesn't do strength training effectively. It works in the grey zone. It doesn't do any precise movements. So it doesn't develop any area really well. That's the main con of kettlebell training. Well, there's a few main cons, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Calisthenics, bodyweight training that is done, and the idea of the bodyweight training is that when you become proficient at a movement, you change the movement slightly to make it harder, which often changes the movement entirely. For example, if you become proficient at a press up, then you would increase the difficulty of the press up by elevating your feet, but that trains then your upper chest and your shoulders. You've stopped developing the strength of your lower chest muscle. You've went on to a more advanced movement, and now you're going to start progressing your endeavour on a different movement. So it's a very unloadable training method, meaning that it doesn't develop your physical capabilities very well. You constantly come into roadblocks and hurdles where you are not strong enough to do the next movement in the sequence, so then you have to go to the gym and develop your strength to these movements and then go back and try these exercises. It looks cool, people do it because they like the look of it. People that take this very seriously do not do this to develop their physical capabilities. They do this because they like to express certain movements and they like how difficult these movements are. So calisthenics to develop your physical capabilities from jiu-jitsu is a terrible idea. It's not very laudable. And the movements, what physical capabilities does it develop? For most people, it'll develop endurance, a little bit of strength. But when you develop your strength to a certain extent, what do you do? What is the option? How do you then further develop your strength? How do you overload these exercises to develop your physical capabilities? Do you just go from one-handed push-up to a no-handed push? A two-handed pull-up to a one-handed pull-up? Do you do weighted pull-ups? But then is a weighted pull-up now called calisthenics? It's like, really? Next one, CrossFit. So what physical capabilities does CrossFit develop? Well, it trains them all, but the argument needs to be made on whether it develops all of them. So if a CrossFit workout starts with 1 or 2 Olympic lifts, then you go into some rowing, and then you go into some jumping on boxes and doing some kettlebells, what physical capabilities did you develop? And the CrossFit athlete would say all of them. And they probably did tick a lot of them boxes. However, was it with precision? Could it be outperformed? So my question to people that do CrossFit is, CrossFit sessions can feel like jiu-jitsu sparring. You know, they feel similar, they're hard, they're good, they give you that feeling, right? But how much is your physical capabilities developed as a result of you doing this training? And the answer is probably not much, because for the same sort of reasons as kettlebells, there's just too much going on for you to actually make significant, tangible progress in one area, and then have that measured progress where you can go, look, I've improved my strength by 29% in the past 3 months on this movement. There is not enough precision in CrossFit for it to be measurable. Like, you may improve your rowing machine score by 5%, you may hold your deadlift 1 rep max, because you're doing all of these different things, and you're doing all of these different things while you're trying to prioritize jiu-jitsu. It's a recipe for disaster. However, it is better than some of these things. I'm going to put it just below average. Next one, bodybuilding. So what is bodybuilding? Bodybuilding is the development of your muscle mass, predominantly muscle mass, and then it's got a lot of crossover to strength as well. So muscle mass, strength, and range of motion. One thing that gets missed and overlooked with bodybuilding is to train your muscles properly, you have to work them muscles through a full range of motion. If you're working your muscles through a full range of motion, you're developing your mobility. So hypertrophy, so muscle mass, strength, range of motion. Another thing that people don't understand about muscle mass is required for the foundation of you to go and then develop your other physical capabilities. So without muscle mass, you can't really develop your power, because you've just got no muscle to actually create that power. So you need to always start with developing your muscle mass. So a lot of people try and overlook this because of the bad stigma that, you know, the bodybuilding industry has. But you just got to think about, take emotion out of the equation and think, what does this actually develop? And is this useful for jiu-jitsu? So is muscle mass being the foundation of any physical capability useful? Yes, 10 out of 10 for usefulness. Strength, range of motion, all three of them are absolutely ridiculously important for jiu-jitsu. So bodybuilding is S tier. Next thing, we'll go with maces. Maces is a weird piece of metal similar to kettlebells that likes to use like balance and stability of your forearms and stability of your shoulders. And that's what they will say that they're developing by using maces. However, what they're really developing is they're just having fun. It's people training with weird stuff because they're a little bit weird themselves. And that's absolutely fine. However, what physical capabilities are they developing, and how are they able to measure it? So they're able to measure it by doing 16 kilo mace with, see how it just becomes a little bit wish-washy. And when it becomes wish-washy, there is a lack of clarity. You suffer by doing these methods because you can't measure your progress. Maces. You know what, I'm going to put calisthenics up one. Some of the movements are really good. Maces, same as kettlebells, a lot of general stuff, but there's a lot better exercises you can do rather than holding a bat for 16 kilos and flailing it around like a medieval warrior. Pilates, a lot of core stability, little bit of like stretching, body weight, not very laudable. And you've got to ask yourself the question again, what physical capabilities are Pilates sessions developing? You know, some people will say they're developing your cardio. Well, if you want to develop your cardio, get yourself on an assault bike, get yourself on a rowing machine, get yourself in the swimming pool, get yourself sprinting. Don't need to be laid on a weird table that moves all over the place to develop your cardio. It's muscular endurance, it's core stability and strength potentially, but all these fancy words, right? They're not, it doesn't, like all these fancy words, forget about the fancy words, right? The spine, it flexes like this. That is your abdominal muscles crunching together. Like to develop your core stability, you just need to work your abdominal muscles and your lower back muscles. Like everybody overcomplicates it. Pilates, is it better than running? Is it better than more mat time? Is it better than kettlebells? Is it better than maces? The only reason I'm going to put it above them is because there's a lot of research on Pilates regarding disc bulges, disc herniations for lower back issues. There's a lot of really good research in that for the alleviation of some chronic back issues. So Pilates is not D tier only for that reason. Powerlifting. So being extremely powerful. To be powerful, you need to have done the muscle building work, you need to have done the strength work, and you need to then get yourself into a position where you can absorb powerlifting effectively. And you're just hunting the numbers. It's you versus gravity with a barbell. And the movements are fantastic. You've got back squats, you've got deadlifts, and you've got bench press. 3 staple movements in anybody's training program. If you aren't doing any of them movements, you're missing out because there's a reason why they're doing them. You've got Olympic powerlifting, which is other movements which have a higher technical bar to entry, but I'm just mentioning powerlifting here. So you've got the big 3, bench, back squat, deadlift. I would argue that back squat is the best strength building movement. If you could only ever do one movement ever, it should be a back squat or a variation of a back squat. If you can't do a back squat to a full range of motion, elevate your heels, go quad focused so you get full knee bend. Full knee bend means full knee strengthening. Your knees are going to be in great shape as a result of doing a back squat variation. But powerlifting is fundamentally trying to develop your power. Ironically, powerlifting actually is not developing your power because the movements that you're doing on these comp days are like strength and explosive strength, I think, maybe. Anyway, is powerlifting beneficial for jiu-jitsu? I think it is. I really do think it is. And the only real con to powerlifting is that it is really taxing on your central nervous system, and it will have a negative knock-on effect of your brain's ability to retain, absorb information, and problem solve on the mats effectively, which is essentially what jiu-jitsu is, right? So powerlifting is going to go into. I'm gonna put it in A tier. I really wanted to put it in B tier, but I'm not going to. Yoga. So yoga, what is yoga and which physical capabilities does it develop? People will say yoga develops your range of motion, your flexibility. Okay, then you have to go one layer deeper than that. Whereabouts does it develop my flexibility? Which pose develops which areas? So then, this is where the problem comes with yoga. Yoga has movements similar to kettlebells where we will work a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and a little bit of that all in the same movement. Why don't you just focus on one? If I want to stretch my hamstrings, why do I need to stretch my shoulders, my T-spine, my calves during a movement that is supposed to focus on my hamstrings? Why do I need to focus on all of these different areas? if I've got a weakness in my hamstrings. That's the main reason I don't like yoga. It's again generalized. It's for people that are on, they only got 5 minutes, 10 minutes in a day, and it's like, right, I need to stretch these people the most amount of muscles possible. It's just there's no precision. You're doing movements that focus on 5 or 6 different things at once. By focusing on 5 or 6 different things at once, you never do any of them really well. So, and another thing that's bad about yoga is that it's not very loadable. It's body weight again. Similar to Pilates, similar to calisthenics, it's body weight. Yoga would be a fucking 10 times better if they did the movements with weight and they progressed the weight that they lift every single time and did more reps. They don't. They stay in this body weight realm. And I think that's one of the main reasons it's really bad. You know, it's really bad. It just develops end range mobility, but you don't bank that for mobility because you don't do the strength work in that new range of motion. So yoga is going in the same category as running, more mat time. You know what, running is going to go up. Because I think running's a little bit more useful than yoga, more mat time, kettlebells and maces. Next one, high rocks. So high rocks, what is high rocks? High rocks is a very accessible, low bar to entry, new shiny training method, right? And it's like similar to CrossFit. It's got the similar crowd of the CrossFit crowd. And what I like about high rocks is that anybody can do it. It's very cardio focused and it's pretty low impact as well. Low technical bar to entry, very high on the intensity for cardiovascular training. It's only like 4 or 5 movements. I think high rocks is better than CrossFit because it's more accessible, it's simpler, and you don't need to spend 9 months on developing your ability to do a snatch. You can just go in and you can just develop your physical capabilities. Now, the huge con of high rocks is that, again, generalist approach. When you have a generalist approach, you don't actually develop your physical capabilities, but it's way more specific than CrossFit. CrossFit, you'll develop 20 different areas all at the same time and expect to make tangible gains in any of these realms. High rocks is just like, right, there's 5 things: sledge push, sledge pull, lunges, wall balls, and running, or something like that. And I just think it's I think it's pretty good in the way it does that. Now, how you take that and measure your progress on each of those and then reflect on jiu-jitsu, I don't think you can go wrong with high rocks personally. However, it's just not specific enough. But I think it's okay. I really do think it's okay. High intensity interval training. So jiu-jitsu is high intensity. So if you go off the mats, high intensity interval training should serve jiu-jitsu, right? It depends which method you're doing. If you're on the bike, if you're on the rowing machine, if you're on the ski erg, or if you're running. As long as you make your high intensity interval training a similar time duration and similar output to your jiu-jitsu rounds or your competition pace, I think it's really useful. If you go one layer deeper than that and actually understand how many people are in your bracket on a competition match, on a competition stage, then you can start to make your high intensity interval trainings match the round duration, but also match the amount of matches in which you need to be ready for. One thing I think this is really good, one reason I think this is really good, is because sometimes on the mat, you do not get the opportunity to develop your physical capabilities because the other person might be better than you, you might be grappling with an inexperienced girl, so you have to be relaxed. You know, there's certain situations, you might be one of the juniors, you might be in a coaching type of role. Sometimes you don't get the opportunity to express intent, right? This is why this is really important that you do this, because it's the only way you can guarantee expression of intent. So, high intensity interval training is going up to A tier because you can be very specific with it. You can be very specific on the intensity, the time durations, for your jiu-jitsu. Last one, plyometrics. Plyometrics is a weird way of exploiting your body's natural spring, right? It's really good for improving tendon stiffness. Stiffness of the tendons will furthermore develop that spring, whether that's single leg, whether that links into agility, change in direction. And this is something that's massively lost as we start to get on a bit. We don't train plyometrics, we don't train power, we don't train speed, but you should. And if you don't, you're missing out. Because if you don't train power and speed and strength, or you don't do any sprinting, it's probably because you're doing stuff like this. It's probably because you're sat in that D tier. And it's the people that are doing the S tier stuff that can sprint. So there's a lot of people that instead of doing plyometrics, instead of jumping, running, sprinting, instead of doing that, they will do kettlebells and mimic plyometric movements or plyometric sensations. There's no way to mimic it. Just do the thing that develops the thing the best. Do the most effective thing. That is my finished S to D tier list on the training methods for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, ranked on their effectiveness to develop your physical capabilities. This is my opinion, you know my experience, you know what I do for a living. However, I am curious to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below on where you would rank these, if I've missed any out, and I'll leave it there.